Shadow is caused by a blockage of light, usually due to an object between a light source and its destination, or when Sega wants to spice up the sequel to Sonic Adventure. Shadow is the plot point that evolved into something more, but unfortunately hasn't been given the video coverage that he deserves. So let's take a look at the truths about Shadow and his stages that many ignored. Since Shadow was sealed away, the only way out is through Hotshot, and while nothing major comes from this fight, we do get to learn one crucial thing about Shadow. With how easily he defeats Hotshot, only a few minutes after he just woke up, clearly Shadow is a morning person. Radical Highway introduces us to the sheer speed and movement Shadow has in store, though one thing about Shadow that we will notice is his aura not matching his overall color palette like Sonic's does, with Shadow having a yellow after image when jumping or spin dashing, though the reasoning for this is actually very clever, because if you look at any RGB color wheel, yellow is actually the opposite complementary color to blue, giving us a more physical indicator of his rivalry with Sonic. But let's be for real, we all know what Shadow's aura really is. The most odd part about this stage is the obscene amount of painted and glowing arrows down the entire road. While you may think this is just for gameplay purposes, the sheer amount of them suggests something more. Clearly these arrows are actually similar to military stripes and signify rank when it comes to roads, with this road being highest ranked when it comes to drivers with bad music taste per mile. Though, we can't talk about Radical Highway without talking about its bridges, and while this landmark is memorable and fun for players to experience, these bridges were also the first step for Shadow to unlock his memories, with these bridges giving Shadow deja vu of his last memories with Maria on Colony Ark's command bridge. Moving on to White Jungle, we can instantly see that it gets its name from the white trees all around. Naturally, jungle trees never are white, so clearly something has terrified these trees so badly that they have turned white. Logically, only two creatures would scare these trees this badly, either Shadow with his intimidating resting face, or even more scarily, these trees witness King Boom Boo passing through on his way to fight Knuckles. With the never-ending rain in White Jungle, it's a little odd we have multiple torches that never seem to go out. The only fire that can usually survive water is an oil fire, which implies either someone or a group of people keep these torches filled with oil. And sadly, now that we know people are living here, this gives Prison Island's explosion a way darker undertone. With how much the stage's surroundings are clogged with mist, thank God the air shoes are here. These shoes are meant to use ring trails, dispersing the mist around us, giving us a clear path forward. Why we continue to use these shoes in future levels void of their intended purpose is unknown, but definitely was not intended by the developers. Shadow in Sonic's first fight is extremely iconic, and while many people may think this battle is located inside of Green Forest, after a lot of research, I've actually learned the real location. Considering that Shadow's tree stage is White Jungle and Sonic's is Green Forest, obviously this location that would be between the two would be called Mint Woods. As soon as we enter Skyrail, you may be thinking this place looks a lot like Pumpkin Hill, but that's besides the point. What we should really focus on is at the altitude we are currently at, Shadow shouldn't be able to breathe. Though, with Shadow being the ultimate life form and all, obviously we are not taking into account how high he currently is. With the amount of drugs Shadow was experimented on with, it seems the effect of those drugs never wore off. So either he is higher than the altitude we are at, or so high that in his mind he believes he's in a lower altitude, allowing him to breathe. We can't talk about Skyrail without talking about the quality of the rails we are grinding, and with close inspection, sadly we can tell Skyrail is aggressively skated by locals, leaving many of the rails waxless and hard to grind on. Luckily momentum can still be built up, but many spots are extremely sticky as you can see here. The propeller springs we find here are also very interesting. These springs seem not to respond well to being aggressively sprung on, with them slowing to a halt anytime sprungs per second is above 0.75. Clearly this was built into these springs to prevent excessive wear with overuse, but unfortunately it has led to many deaths ever since they were installed. Final Chase is Shadow's last level, but Shadow's new tricks don't end here. The gravity cylinders may look as though they themselves changed Shadow's gravity, but what's actually happening is on Shadow's end. All the Gravity Talk space insights inspired Shadow to inverse the jets in his boots, allowing for him to walk on walls. Final Chase is also where we locate Shadow's Mystic Melody, and playing it, it probably sounds the same as every other character's melody, but there is one key difference. For some reason in Shadow's variation of the melody, there's one low sub-bass tone that is imperceivable to any known audio device or person, with the only reason it was even included being to add more dark undertones to Shadow. In this stage, there are also meteors that seemingly have given up chasing after planets and their gravity. What caused these meteors to lose their trajectory in life is unknown, but one theory is that after passing the arc and hearing about Earth's imminent destruction, majority of these meteors got extremely skeptical and decided to wait around to see if the rumors were true. And finally, we are at the last battle between Shadow and Sonic. This fight is simply just a mirrored fight to what we saw in the hero story, but there is one takeaway. While we know for gameplay purposes this fight ends with either Sonic or Shadow winning, the true canon ending of this encounter is told by each character's level name, with Final Rush indicating that Sonic rushes past Shadow, and Final Chase telling us how Shadow ends up having to chase after Sonic, who is more focused on stopping Eggman than dealing with Shadow. And that is the end of this video. If you enjoyed, you know what to do.